What's up everyone, it's Cathie with Money Investing. So welcome on board for yet another Market Open live stream here. So thank you so much for joining in. I really hope that everything is working well. Just want to make sure the audio and the video is good. So give me a thumbs up if you guys can see me without any lags and the audio is also clear. Just give me a thumbs up in the live chat. The QQQ right now is down a little bit over 0.5%, so we are coming down to as low as $318.85. So we're once again back in that range between 325 and 318. SPY is also down a little bit, close to 20 basis points, not a whole lot, but obviously selling off a little bit down to 412. And then we've got the Dow Jones pretty much flat here on the day so far at pre-market. Volatility is up a little bit over 2.87%. So pushing past over 21.89 levels. So Steve, thank you so much for that comment. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you so much for joining in, everyone. Glad to hear that everything is working well. Going over to earnings. So today, Tuesday, we did have Norwegian, Spirit Airlines, Ralph Lauren, and Workhorse reporting. And then, of course, later today after the bell, we've got Coinbase, we got Roblox, we got Trade Desk. But I will be breaking down some of these other companies like Digital Turbine, Take-Two Interactive, Lemonade, Blink Charging, Upstart. We already talked about. I did a video on that as well. So we'll take a look at some of these companies. I also did a video on Tattooed Chef. So if you haven't checked that out, you're welcome to do so. But of course, later today, we've got all these companies. And then later this week, we've got Walt Disney, we've got Matterport, Rivian, Dutch Bros, Wendy's, all these companies also reporting later this week. So inflation numbers bright and early tomorrow. So tomorrow's live stream is going to be super early. So we are going to start at around 8:15 a.m. Eastern to take a look at what those inflation numbers are going to look like. And the expectation right now, like I said in my yesterday's live stream, is for us to see a 0.5% increase on the core CPI month over month, and then on a headline CPI on a month over month basis for us to see an increase of 0.2%. And for total headline CPI to come down to 8.7% on a year-over-year basis, and then core to go up to 6.1% on a year-over-year basis. So tomorrow, very important numbers coming up, and that is really going to be shifting those interest rate expectations when it comes to the Fed funds futures. And then on Thursday, we've also got the producer price index, so PPI numbers also coming out later this week. So two very important days for the markets coming up. And today is just like one of those days where we have the calm before the storm. And we'll see what inflation numbers look like. So, and then of course, Michigan's consumer sentiment and expectations also are going to be very important. So Oleg, yes, I'll take a look at Unity Software here in just a minute. Let's just run through our presentation, then I'll go over specific stocks so we can break down what kind of numbers they reported, and then of course go over the technicals as well. So 1.3% was the increase in the month of June for inflation, and prior to that we saw 1% and 0.3% in April. So obviously we have seen very elevated numbers for inflation overall. So again, this is going to be very important. Total CPI is sitting at just over 9%, and core is sitting at just under 6% at the moment. And most of those gains coming in from food and energy, two of those items which have consistently seen increases in overall prices over the last 12 to 18 months. So one of the investment managers says, quote unquote, absolutely not. Don't chase the rally in stocks and bonds right now. So they basically said, and I quote, investors should, whatever that word is, chasing recent rallies in stocks and bonds given the current economic uncertainty, according to the chief investment officer of Swiss asset manager Prime Partners. And Francois, I don't know how you say that, but Francois Savary said it was hugely difficult to have a clear economic visibility due to the particulars of the current investment cycle. And one of the key factors that supported the rally, which was a strong bond market during the month of July, has disappeared due to a certain extent. And additionally, while the second quarter earnings season had been robust so far, a key issue looming is how much analysts would revise their third quarter earnings forecast. So we consider that the two elements that can support a further rally in the equity markets are not clearly there. So as a result, investors should, quote unquote, absolutely not be chasing the rally in equities that has been underway since the middle of July. So, obviously, we've got a lot of a mixed angle in the markets. Obviously, many different perspectives in the overall markets when it comes to economic forecasts and of course market forecasts as well. This is just one of them that I wanted to go over and kind of present to you guys. So ARK Invest, Cathie Wood scoops up more than $60 million of Nvidia following chipmakers revenue warning. So Cathie Wood, ARK Invest scooped up Nvidia shares on Monday, buying the dip following the chipmakers revenue warnings, and they picked up over 289,000 shares of Nvidia for her flagship ARKK fund and roughly 47,000 shares in the ARK Next Generation Internet ETF ARKW and more than 30,000 shares in the ARK FinTech Innovation ETF ARKF. According to ARK's daily trading data, and combined, these purchases cost more than $65 million based on Nvidia's closing price of $177.93. So did a full video on Nvidia as well. So you can obviously check that out if you haven't already. And I'm really going to be looking forward to the earnings call. And what Jensen Huang says in their earnings is going to be very, very important. And why the gross margins declined the way they did. So consumers expect inflation to ease. The Federal Reserve, which has been battling for decade-high inflation with steep rate hikes, actually received some good news on Monday. Respondents to the New York's Fed monthly survey of consumer expectations said they believe inflation will persist at a pace of about 6.2% for the next year and 3.2% over the next 3 years. And those numbers are still high, but they have moderated as the price of gasoline and mortgage rates slipped from their recent peaks, and the Fed is expected to follow through with more rate hikes following back-to-back 3/4 point increases this summer. So once again, the next meeting is going to be in September. So Dead Man Walking says now Nvidia will go down here thanks to Cathie. We can buy the dip. Yeah, that catalyst, you don't know if that's bullish or bearish anymore because at one point, Cathie Wood's name was enough to move the stock higher. But what's happened over the last 12, 18 months to a lot of momentum stocks, to a lot of our funds, you can't really tell whether this is a bullish or a bearish catalyst. Just like you can't tell when Jim Cramer says to buy a stock, you can't tell whether that's a bullish or a bearish catalyst. So Deutsche Bank downgrades Palantir, citing a slowdown in government contracts. So they basically said it's time to sell Palantir as further risks lie ahead of the company's government contracts business. And they said, and I quote, "While we've always been more skeptical of Palantir's commercial opportunity, our thesis was rooted in what we saw was a uniquely strong position in public sector. And now with the government business further decelerating off of its easier comparables and with diminished confidence visibility ahead, we are left with very little support for our thesis." And they basically downgraded the stock and cut its revenue estimates for 2022. And 2023 and trimmed its price target to $8 a share from $11. And Palantir obviously has been selling off quite a bit. Did a video on Palantir as well. Execution's just been lacking so much for the company right now that even Alex Carr was not super confident in the earnings call. UBS reiterates target as a buy. Bard downgrades Bed Bath & Beyond to underperform from neutral. Morgan Stanley reiterates BlackRock as overweight. We got Piper Sandler upgrading Tyson Foods to neutral from underweight. Deutsche downgrading Palantir to sell from hold. So this is just the catalyst that we read. And this right here was a pretty interesting one. There's not very often days where you see Nvidia getting a downgrade, but Craig Hellum downgrading Nvidia to hold from buy. And they basically said, the good news is data center is the largest segment today, and growth continues to be very strong, which limits the downside for Nvidia that it should see from the gaming cycle versus the one in late 2018. The problem is that unless data center can post back-to-back growth of 50% plus, our EPS estimates have to come down quite a bit due to the gaming impact. And that's the thing, margin hit was pretty significant from Nvidia. That was, unfortunately a big miss from, guiding 67% 3 months earlier to then just reporting 45%. So revenue is understandable. Gaming is a very cyclical business in general, and they may have misanticipated or misjudged how much of an offset gaming was going to do to the revenues. But I think the margin mix, that is what I'm really, really, focused on. That is what I'm going to be really listening in on. What happened to the margins there? Because if you're doing 47% gross margins, then what can we expect on the bottom line when it comes to net income and earnings per share? So that was an interesting downgrade. Not very often, like I said, not every day is, you see a downgrade on Nvidia. But after yesterday's earnings, obviously it was pretty shocking. But JP Morgan reiterates Netflix as a neutral, and then we got Wolf reiterating Tesla as peer perform. and General Motors has outperformed. And then this right here is going to be the interest rate probability right now. Still 67.5% Fed funds futures probability for us to see a 75 basis point hike, and about a 32% probability for us to see a 50 basis point hike. And this is where we are for the rest of the year going into 2023. So going over to the markets, and again, going over a recap here very quickly, we got QQQ still down about 0.5%. SPY is down close to 20 basis points, and we got the S&P and the Dow Jones pretty much flat here so far. So, all right, let me just see here some of the comments and the chat here. Yes, so finally you get to watch your live stream here live. Yep, so we have caught up with the lagging issues, and hopefully, you know, it doesn't give us any more issues. So good lagging, everyone. So good morning, everyone. All right, perfect. So let's just take a look at some of the stocks and see what they actually reported for earnings, and then what was the reaction from individual companies. So we'll start with Take-Two Interactive, TTWO. Let's see where they are. So they're down about 3.5%. Looks like they missed on both revenue and EPS for this second quarter. So let's just take a look. So they reported, okay, so they reported for the first fiscal quarter with a GAAP loss of 76 cents per share compared to earnings of $1.30 per share same time last year. Analysts were expecting earnings of 85 cents per share. Yeah, so that's a pretty big downswing here for the company. And revenue for the quarter, $1.1 billion, up from $813 million same time last year. And analysts were expecting $1.11 billion, so pretty much came in line with expectations. And the company said its revised outlook for fiscal year 2023 to include its combination with Zynga, and it now expects a GAAP net loss per share between $2.75 and $2.50 on revenue of $5.73 and $5.83 billion. And the previous guidance was diluted net income per share of $1.90 to $2.15 and revenue between $3.67 to $3.77. So I think there's Zynga acquisition is definitely taking a bit bigger hit on their margins. So even though revenue guide went higher, they went from 3.77 billion to over 5.7 billion once accounting for those Zynga revenues as well. But their bottom line is actually going to be generating a loss, or a net loss of 275 to 250 a share, versus their prior guidance of actual earnings per share that were profitable. So a little bit of mixed earnings there from the company. I think it's going to take some time for them to fully, incorporate Zynga's numbers. And become profitable once again. But resistance is going to stay put at 133. We've gotten rejected at that level for Take-Two Interactive for so long, and support level is going to stay put right here, close to $119 dollars per share for Take-Two Interactive. So let's take a look at Unity Software now. I think they also reported. Let's see, when did they report? Oh no, they report after the close today. So okay, after the bell, they will be reporting. But pre-market, wow, they're up over 9.75%. The expectations are negative 21 cents per share, and revenue is going to be roughly about $300 million. Very, very strong support at $31, $32. So this right here is going to be a very strong support level to watch for Unity Software, and we're definitely starting to see a lot of momentum come in for this company. It's up over 65, 66% in the last couple days here. So AppLovin offers to buy Unity Software. So AppLovin on Tuesday made an offer to buy Unity Software in a $17.54 billion stock deal, and the enterprise value of the deal is $20 billion. And AppLovin will offer $58.85 for each Unity share, the company said. So 58.85, and the price is trading at 54.30. So there's never going to be, when this news comes up, one company is trying to buy another company, you will never find the company trade exactly at that price unless it is 100% confirmed. There's always a risk of these deals kind of falling through. Look what happened with Elon Musk and Twitter. Twitter was not exactly trading at that level of whatever that price was. I forgot, it was like 54.20 or something. It was trading below that level because there's always that risk built in. What if that deal doesn't go through? What if that deal kind of falls apart? So right now, up 7% on the news. But what this does is this potential offer validates the company's valuation. That's what it does, right? When a company puts an offer like this, it is a very good thing for Unity Software and the companies that are in a similar sector that gets a huge validation for the valuation for the company, right? So at least now Unity Software can look at their company and they know that, okay, at least $20 billion in enterprise value is what we're worth, right? What other companies are willing to pay for us. That's a big validation. But right now up 8%, just trading at over $53.60. And right now just, pushing higher. Still, I would say in the context of a little bit of this higher highs and higher lows, but support level is going to stay put at $31, $32, and we'll see what numbers they report after the bell today. So Upstart, we have already done a video on, so I talked about this. It's down a little bit over 10%. It has recovered quite a bit from its lows. So, when I did that video, it was trading at roughly 27 or $26 per share. So like it sold off all the way down to $25. And then look what happened. It immediately got bought up. This right here was a jump of 34%. This was all after hours. First, it sold off down to $25. Then it got bought right back up to $34.42. And then it sold off right back down. So volatile. And it sold off a little bit over 21%. And right now just hovering around $28, $29. Again, did a full analysis on them. So if you want to check that out, the video should be there. You're happy to. But yeah, overall earnings and revenues weren't great. They only grew by 18%, and they're guiding for a decline in their future third quarter revenue and earnings to be negative. So they're expecting a net loss in the third quarter, just given all the macroeconomic headwinds that we're dealing with. So G says you literally know the ins and out of every company in the S&P 500. Not every company. I wouldn't necessarily call it every company, but I would say that I know like most. But you guys help too. Like it's not just me. Again, I can't take all the credit, but you guys help a lot. You guys come up with some great ideas, some great research, and some great analysis. So it definitely helps us, as a community to stay on top of things and obviously, understand what's going on with different companies in terms of acquisitions, earnings, a lot of different sort of parts of their businesses. Because the more we know, the lower the risk is. So, I think that's really key here is that as a community, we're kind of staying up to date. Kevin says you're too modest. All right, let's take a look at Digital Turbine. So APPS, right? So Digital Turbine, I don't expect them to report some great numbers because of the ad market. So they're kind of like the opposite of Take-Two Interactive and Pubmatic, some of those companies that rely on advertising and they're offering some of those mobile applications to developers to build out their platforms. And obviously advertising is a big key component for generating revenue. But since advertising has been so under pressure in 2022, you will see companies like Take-Two Interactive, Pubmatic, even Digital Turbine to some extent be affected by that, just like Meta, Google, and some of those other social media companies are being affected. So looks like they did beat on revenue and earnings. That's very good. I think the valuation for APPS remains really low, but revenue growth, let's take a look here. So earnings reaction history, this is not what we want to see. All right, so let's see here. This is also not the earnings update. This is from June, so yeah, this is not the numbers here. But anyway, we do have revenue at about $188.6 million. $188.6 million. And then, of course, EPS coming in at 38 cents per share. So strong beat on both revenue and earnings. But I don't have on TradingView the catalyst for the guide or the actual numbers on a year-over-year basis. But if you take a look at the overall chart here for Digital Turbine, so let's just go over the weekly time frame. It did kind of sell off. So this was like, two different sort of higher lows, if you want to call it. The first one was all the way down here. A very nice consistent validation. We got a couple touch points here. And, if you were to kind of consistently go along that path, that confluence of support would be sitting at $9. But we've also got another support here for Digital Turbine, which, started once again in October 2018. We got another touch point here. And then we didn't quite validate that level. We broke down, and right now we're just going back up to retest that level once again. So we'll keep a close eye on a support here for Digital Turbine in the 1460, 1450 level. But of course, similar to what other stocks have done, Digital Turbine's also up over 64, 65%. So, most stocks you'll see are obviously higher, 40, 50, 60, 70% in the last a couple months here in the last like 6 to 8 weeks because of the overall market pushing higher very aggressively. I mean, the Nasdaq's up 20%, the SPY is up 14-15%. So we have seen definitely a lot of momentum in the overall market. Dewey, name a company you never heard of. I can't. If I haven't heard of it, how can I name that company? But no, I'm always looking for fresh new ideas, right? So from you guys do a great job in kind of bringing up new stocks and new ideas, and that's exactly the whole point, is kind of leveraging what we have here as a community and kind of bringing up new ideas to the table so we can take a look at them. And if there's any opportunity, if they're worth investing in, then there's why not, right? Do analysis on them. Yeah, Pubmatic beat on earnings and revenue as well, so that's great. Let's see how they're doing pre-market. By the way, the poll should be there, so make sure that you do vote if you haven't already, just for the markets today. But looks like Pubmatic also beat on earnings and on revenue. Let's see if they have any numbers here. So yeah, no numbers for Pubmatic and Digital Turbine from TradingView. All we have is earnings and reaction history. Is this how Pubmatic has moved on earnings, but no actual numbers. Some of the other ones are from May. Wonder why that is. But pushing up over 6.7%, very, very nicely. And I would watch this resistance right here, exactly where it's trading at, roughly $19, $20 for Pubmatic as a resistance. So, all right, we got about 13 minutes till the lagging issue. I'm just kidding. 13 minutes till the market opens here. So Nasdaq here is still down, especially some of the more tech-oriented names selling off quite a bit, 70 basis points. And then we got SPY down about 31 basis points. Let's take a look at some of the individual stocks as well. Let's see how they're doing, and then I'll close out some of the other ones just so we don't have any lagging issues right now. So this is the higher highs and higher lows. So right here, is going to be the uptrending channel for the select stocks that we're looking at: Meta, Apple, Amazon, some of these companies, and they have hit a higher high and they're starting to pull back a little bit. So we are seeing a little bit of a pullback on this particular chart as well. Something to pay attention to very closely. So Brandon, Cathie, did you add any more Tesla recently? I have not. The last price I bought Tesla as was in the 680s. So I believe it was like 686, roughly around those levels was the last time I actually picked up shares. But since then, I have not bought any more Tesla. So Meta here down about 68 basis points. Nvidia kind of following through a little bit, down almost 3%. Tesla slightly down 25 basis points, and then Amazon's down about 1%, give or take. And then Apple here is also down about 75, 76 basis points right now. You should analyze MANU. You mean the team or the stock? Because I feel like the team, it's very hard to analyze. I think we definitely, I'm not going to bore you guys with that, maybe another time. But when it comes to the stock itself, they do have a very decent yield, 1.5%. But obviously the stock has been, performing really poorly, just like how the team's been doing, down from $20. It's down about 45, 50%. Year to date, the stock is down about 19, almost 20%. So not as bad as some of the other stocks out there. So, but it's been pretty much range bound. It hasn't really moved in years. Like if you take a look at the overall chart, this stock was at the same level as 2012, 2013, as where it is right now. So, so my Tesla average is roughly in the high 600s right now. So yeah, it's roughly around the same price where I picked up. So that's where it is right now. So TTOO, the next 1000x Reddit squeeze play. John, this is absolutely the wrong place for you to mention that stock, because we obviously don't. I'll take a look at that stock just for fun. But yeah, as I was saying, United obviously just going sideways. Yes, I have, Oleg. I have averaged up a little bit. But this right here, United, obviously trading sideways, consolidating $20 resistance, support at 11.50. And ever since, Ferguson left the club around 2013, I think, 2012, 2013. And since then, it's just been trading sideways. It hasn't really done anything. All right, TTOO. What do we have here? So All right, up 17%. Super micro cap stock. Not even worth talking about. Only a $22 million market cap. So we're just going to move on and look at something else. AMC, let's see how AMC is doing right now. Up 25, well, pretty much flat here. It was a very strong day yesterday, up over 8%. So, we're starting to see a little bit, but look at the candle yesterday. Very significant inverted hammer candle. RSI, MACD, just, absolutely through the roof right now. So just all I'm going to say is be careful. Obviously, if you're trading or, if you're investing in something like AMC, it can be really volatile. It can be very aggressive in the way it moves. And something that's, very similar to what we have witnessed before was back in March, an inverted hammer candle, kind of marking that peak with an overbought RSI. And right now we're once again, back kind of forming that similar pattern with the RSI also a little bit on the overbought side. Well, quite overbought, not a little bit, up over 80. And the price also kind of making that inverted head and shoulders. Thoughts on Bed Bath & Beyond. So let's see. Another I feel like short squeeze stock here, pushing up very aggressively, up 39-40%. So again, these are stocks that are great for trading purposes, but unfortunately, I don't see a lot of value when it comes to investment standpoint. I mean, you can take a look at the revenues, right? So I mean, just consistent declines over the last 5 years. So that's where we are with these companies. They're great for trading, obviously, but when it comes to just figuring out whether they're worth the investment, it's going to be a pass for me personally. So where do you see Upstart will end today? Upstart, I'm watching that support at $22. I do think that, it's shown some strength pre-market, but, 2260 is going to be that support, and where it's going to end up is just pretty much anybody's guess. My guess is just as good as yours. But all I'm going to say is the earnings weren't great. They did guide lower for decline in revenue. And when it comes to net income, they did guide for a net loss as well, which is going to put the entire year also on a potentially a net loss sort of for the full fiscal year 22. And this is what happens when your operating expenses are still high and your revenue starts decelerating, right? It's very difficult for a company which is growing very rapidly to grow operating expenses in the same way as your revenues are growing. Because if you get a couple of bad quarters of revenue growth, right, it starts decelerating. And that's what happened with Upstart, right? Only 18% growth year over year. At one point, this company used to do over 1,000% growth rates last year. And now it's doing 18%. You can see the drastic difference between growth rates. But operating expenses were still high, and as a result, margins are coming down. So that's the situation with Upstart. I do still have a couple of cash secured puts, which strikes at $20. If I were to get assigned, my cost basis will be at $15 or something or lower. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it trades on the day today. So Arnold says, I know people who are in Bed Bath & Beyond at $4. I can't believe they're actually right. That's great. That's incredible. So thoughts on SQQQ long today, levels to watch. So when it comes to SQQQ, as a hedge, watch QQQ is at 318. So, if you go back to our analysis on the Nasdaq, and, this is something we talked about on the market updates videos, and of course our channels as well. Look at where, oh my God, this is crazy. Look where we bounced off of pre-market. The low for pre-market here so far was $318.19, right? This is ridiculous. So if you take a look at, what's happened since last Monday, we have found support, we have found resistance here. At that resistance a couple times we've gotten rejected. Then of course Wednesday we got that breakout. Thursday, Friday we just consolidated sideways at that resistance, so we weren't able to break out above 325. Then the Friday strong jobs numbers come out, we sell off, we get bounce up, sell off, bounce higher. And then on Monday, yesterday, we were talking about this, and a lot of you guys mentioned that we're going to see a breakout, which we did, but we weren't able to hold above that level for very long, right? So we started to see the pattern kind of roll right back down, and then guess what? Support once again at 318. So if you are looking at any potential hedging opportunity with SQQQs, I would watch 318 on the Qs, see if we get a breakdown below this level. And if we do, then there could be more potential downside for the overall market. And that's exactly one of the reasons why I've mentioned in our market updates and in the Discord, where I am a little bit of a net seller in this environment, just given how two things we've talked about. What are the two things? If you're part of this channel, you should know this. What were the two things that you were watching out for? It's also a title of one of the videos that we talked about. So you should pretty much know it by now. It was more on the technicality side, right? It's nothing related to the macros. It's more the technicality. Yep. So Alex got it. VIX. So volatility. Yep. So low volatility. And there was one more thing. Overbought. Yes. So V got it. Overbought levels, right? So it was more on the technicality side. You guys got it perfectly. So overbought and volatility. Inflation, I do expect that inflation numbers are going to be a little bit of an improvement, given where energy prices have come down to. Oil right now trading at roughly about $89, $91. Yep, so Nikunj got it perfectly, risk reward. So, your risk reward is a little bit shifted here versus, say 5 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago. So we're definitely getting up to an overbought territories. Volatility has come down pretty substantially. So it makes sense why I want to be a little bit of a net seller, take some profits off the table. So that's why I've been trimming some of these positions. Kevin says red mic. Yeah, that's been the biggest issue, right? That's been the biggest catalyst for us. So yeah, strangely, VIX is still quite low. Yep, that's right. So okay. Isn't VIX also means overbought, or are they not relevant? Just curious. Not necessarily. It just represents, it's kind of like a fear index. So it just tells us about the number of puts that are on the S&P 500 versus calls, and the volatility coming down overall just means that there's not enough. There's not a lot of fear in the markets, if you want to call it, right? In simple terms, when the VIX spikes, that means the fear kind of increases in the markets. And of course, the inverse correlation was what we've seen with the S&P and the volatility. That works out about 70 to 80% of the times. And just given how low the VIX is, and looking at seasonality charts, we've talked about how August and September is usually the time when the VIX is the highest during midterm elections. So just when you just think about those things, when you look at the charts, the technicals, it just starts to make sense that the risk reward is not super appealing at these levels. If you do see a little bit of pullback, then yeah, we definitely would love to get back in. So all right, so we got about a minute 30 left for the markets to open. We're going to switch over to the actual indices. And let's just do this. Give me your inflation predictions for tomorrow. Year over year, headline, and core. So the comment, if you're going to post it in the chat, just lag incoming. Hopefully not. We didn't have any lags yesterday, so hopefully it doesn't happen. But let me know in the live chat what is going to be your headline CPI and core. So two numbers I need, right? Headline and core. Headline and core. So Lepus says 8.9%. Christopher says 8.6. Far says 8.4. V, I have not yet looked at DraftKings earnings. I will definitely take a look. It is going to be part of the watch list in terms of companies that I want to analyze. So I'll definitely look at that company as well. Okay, so we got 8.8 from Oleg. We got 6.9, 8.8. Srinivas says flat. Yeah, I mean it's very likely that we end up at under 9% on the headline CPI. Core, I'd be surprised if we go back above 6%. That's what the expectations are right now, that we're going to go back above 6%. It also depends how long it takes for these oil prices and the sell-off we have seen to kind of manifest in the prices that people are paying at the pump. All right, so markets are open. Nasdaq here is going to open up any second, but the S&P is down about 20 basis points right now. The Dow Jones more or less flat, and the Nasdaq is down over 66 basis points. Just let me know if there's any lags, right? So we just want to make sure that the audio and the video is crisp, and hopefully there's no lagging issues. So Tesla 874, Meta 169, 170 levels, Nvidia still down about 2%, but just trading at roughly around 173, 174, and then Amazon also down about 0.5% right now. So Bitcoin we haven't touched on yet, so let's just take a look. Bitcoin just trading at 23,300, so just more or less consolidating sideways here, and resistance we talked about was going to be sitting roughly at 24,500, around those levels, and then we've got, of course, Ethereum trading at just over 1,700, right at that support. 1,700 either resistance or support for Ethereum right now. So far, AppLovin is suggesting merger with APPS. I think they're merging with, or I think they're potentially offering Unity software. I think it was, right? So we read about this earlier. But yeah, I think AppLovin is more interested in Unity software. I don't think it was just Turbine. So yeah, we'll pay close attention to QQQs here. I think that's going to be really important on the 5-minute time frame. There we go. We did see a breakdown here below 318. So yeah, QQQ's just coming down a little bit over close to 1%. Just waiting for the chart to refresh. I don't know why it's not showing up. It should. Let's see if I refresh this chart. Oh, there we go. There we go. So yeah, 318 was that support that we were paying attention to. Right now, we're seeing a little bit of a breakdown here from those levels. Again, we'll continue to monitor and see if it cracks below even further, or if the buyers do step in to push us back above this area of support. And again, if you go back on the chart's history, we have gone rejected Monday, Tuesday of last week. We got rejected, at these levels. And yes, what matters is where we close. Absolutely, what matters is where we close. And then this right here was a breakout. Double top, triple top resistance at 325. Yesterday, almost got a breakout, but that was a fake breakout from the markets. And intraday, the Nasdaq sold off 2.2%. So lots of intraday weakness. And then right now, we're just kind of continuing on that momentum from pre-market. So. Yeah, so Nasdaq down almost 1%, S&P is down 30 basis points. Dow is really holding up. Dow Jones only down 10 basis points. And we're looking at tech stocks here. Tesla, oof, that's a pretty big red candle. Down to under 860, down 1.3%. Meta is down over 1.5%. We got Nvidia down about 2.7, 2.8, and then Amazon's down over 1.3%. If you take a look at our FANG Mint stocks here, what do we got? So we have all of them red, starting with Nvidia, then AMD. AMD is also getting a drag from Nvidia here, down 2.2%. Netflix down 2%, so cooling off a little bit. Meta, Tesla, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Apple, all of them down. And then let's see what's actually green, if there's anything green. So Lemonade, I know a couple of you mentioned Lemonade, pushing higher on good numbers, on good earnings. We'll take a look at that in just a minute. Vertex Pharmaceutical, it hit a new 52-week high yesterday. Vertex did, and right now it's trading as much as 298. So very, very strong move for Vertex Pharmaceutical. Baba, I know a couple of people mentioned Alibaba as well. Alibaba is up over 1.5%. They're doing a Walgreens pushing higher. Trulieve is slightly higher. CVS, Unity Software. Unity Software kind of giving up on some of those gains. It was trading as much as $53. So pulling right back down. And then everything else is so far pretty red. Anywhere between 1 to 2 to as much as 4, 5, 6, 7, 8%. So Upstart's down 9. Tattooed Chef is down 10%. Did a video on Tattooed Chef as well. So you can check that out if you haven't already. Coinbase, Mara, Peloton, Shopify, LABU. Trimmed some LBU yesterday in the 12.50s and $13 ranges. And then, of course, we got Plug, Fiverr, Take-Two Interactive, we covered earlier, their earnings. SoFi slightly pulling back, 4.7%. And AMC also pulling slightly back down. So this is where we are. Now, what we're going to have to focus on for 318 is whether this level now acts as a resistance, or do the buyers very comfortably break out over that level once again. So that's what we're going to pay attention to, because we did break down. So we're going to switch that back into a resistance. So we'll see if we actually do indeed reclaim that level, or if we're not able to successfully break out. So Baba and Neo has new institutional hedge funds buyers big of F13. So F13 filing is what I'm assuming. So that's very good information. Thanks for sharing, Oleg. I'll do some more digging to see if I can find anything. JPM, let's take a look. Let's just do Dow Jones stocks here very quickly. Let's see how they're doing. They seem to be holding up much better here. So Salesforce, Nike, IBM, Home Depot, Boeing, Disney, all of them selling off, but there's energy stocks doing a little bit better, as we have seen a little bit of recovery. Energy is up over 1.3%, so back over $91 a barrel. So if you take a look at our energy watch list overall, Occidentals up 3.7%, Devon Energy, Shell, ExxonMobil, Chevron, XLE, BP, all of them pushing higher. And then if you go across, JP Morgan slightly higher, Walgreens, we got Pfizer, Walmart, Merck, UNH, Travelers pushing higher, McDonald's, Caterpillar slightly green. So Dow obviously holding much better than the likes of S&P 500 or the Nasdaq. But what do you guys think? 318, is that going to be a rejection again, or if the buyers are going to reclaim that resistance again, we're going to push through and kind of push right back above 318? What does everybody think? What's the consensus here? Again, old support. This is pretty much an old resistance turning into a support, which is now turning back into a resistance for the QQQs. So, this is exactly why, we talked about this level, this area being a quote unquote battleground, right? Because if you come over to this chart, you'll notice that inside this red rectangle, we've seen so much consolidation. We've seen so much back and forth. It's kind of like a known level where the bulls and the bears kind of come together, and this creates so much volatility. You go back on the chart, you can see that over here. Just so much back and forth. You see green days, red days, green days, red days, green days. It's just back and forth. And then once again over here in March, once again over here in April and in May. And then right now we're just going through a very similar process of, just back and forth here. That's inside the red rectangle. And there was a confluence of resistance that we're hitting. That's the lower highs over here and the sort of like the resistance that we talked about inside the red rectangle. So we'll see. We'll see if the volatility continues to be there, and if we do see a lot of back and forth momentum for the Qs. But 318 is going to be that level. Brandon says bullish turnaround today. Oscar says I believe it'll break down. $320 close for the win. 320 is going to be all the way up here, so that's going to be a move of another 0.87%. So not impossible. Definitely that's a possibility for the markets. It's just how likely is it going to be? Yeah, rejection. Why? Because inflation is going to be elevated for quite some time, and rates will need to go higher and stay there for longer to fight inflation equals hawkish Fed. Yeah, I think that's a fair analysis. I think that's a very well put thought right there. And of course, we'll find out where inflation is tomorrow. And this is what's going to really move the market. It's not the inflation numbers itself, but it is going to be the actual interest rate expectation. So this is what's going to be the more important number the market's going to be paying attention to. The inflation is the inflation, but whether these interest rate expectations flip back to 50 basis points or they do more entrenched with the 75 basis points, if that pretty much gets confirmed, that's what's going to be more important for the market. So that is going to be critical for what we see from the markets pre-market. Darrell says, I hope CPI gets leaked, just like it got leaked the last time, which is a completely crazy report. It showed like over 10% increase in overall prices, inflation like at over 10%. It was still showing for the month of like May or something. So whoever did that editing was just like, I know that they were like circulating that on Twitter, the CPI numbers. I don't think the market moved all that much on those CPI numbers. Whatever that was released. So Kevin says we need 100 basis points. Honestly, yeah, can't argue with you there. I think the higher the interest rates go, the more flexibility the Fed will have. But we also have to remember that this is the interest rates that all other interest rates are pegged against. So 100 basis points is gonna pretty significant pace of interest rate hikes. So, that's going to drive up mortgage rates, that's going to drive up auto loans, it's going to drive up personal loans, it's going to drive up student loans, it's going to drive up every single credit, right, higher. So it's a very slow and steady process. Obviously, this has been the most hawkish Fed that we've seen in a very long time, very, very aggressive, and they're going up 50, 75 basis points like it's nothing, but it's also required. In times like these, it is definitely important. And yeah, Chente brings up a great point. USA debt repayment too. There's the debt on the U.S. balance sheet and interest rates going higher is going to be pretty dramatic. All right, so right now QQQ is starting to reclaim back above 318 here. Starting to push up, so we'll see. This is the big test. We'll see if it actually does stay above these levels or if you get rejected here. So Ray, when do you use 1 minute, 5 minute, 15 minute, 1 week? So usually when I'm looking at longer time frames, right, obviously 1 day, 1 week, I'm trying to get a good sense of that long-term trend and how it's kind of evolved over the years and over the months. That's going to be focusing on daily and weekly timeframes. Very rarely, I would also look at monthly timeframes to get a bigger picture, right? It's all about zooming out and looking at the bigger picture and how the chart has evolved. But if I'm looking at 1 minute, 5 minute, 30 minutes, mostly focusing on very, very short-term trend and trying to understand, very important short-term resistance or support levels. So, for example, like for QQQs, this 318 is a very important resistance. On the 5 minute chart, on the 30 minute chart, like it's a double resistance on just 2 days. But if you zoom out, you might find different levels to watch, right? So that's why we like to focus on different time frames, and obviously intraday 318 is something to focus on. But if you kind of zoom out, this is the overall chart right here. Which is the lower high over here coming in from the longer time frame, which is obviously the lower highs. We've got a couple of touch points there. And support level sitting roughly at about 316, 315 levels. So Brendan says bullish turnaround happening right now. Yeah, I mean we're just like testing. We're testing, right? The bulls are testing 318. We're kind of feeling it out right now. So Cathie, do you have friends in the U.S.? What do they say about prices, food, gas, day-to-day goods, and do they feel recession? Yeah, I mean, I do have friends there, and they do feel it. Grocery prices, just day-to-day stuff. Gasoline, obviously, is big part of everyone's pretty much day-to-day stuff. So yeah, they're definitely feeling it. But I think you guys can share more information on that. Like people who are watching this stream that are in the U.S., how do you feel about, when you're dealing with gas prices and groceries and all that stuff? How much is it affecting you on a more personal basis? I think that's going to be it's going to give us a better sense of, where we are and whether there's potential for recession or not. So looking at individual names here, Amazon down about 1.3%, getting a little bit of a bounce back higher though. Meta Platforms also bouncing higher. Nvidia starting to recover a little bit of those losses, and Tesla still down 1.3%, just trading at over 860. Taking a look at Apple here, more or less flat, 27, 30 basis points down, nothing crazy. And then AMD obviously getting a bit of a drag from Nvidia as well, down about 2.3%. So just selling off in tandem with Nvidia. Novavax down over 23%. Wonder what they reported there. Wow, look at Upstart. How come nobody's mentioned Upstart? Only down 4% now. Oof, so many buyers stepping in on Upstart's numbers here. It's up 9% since open. 9% intraday. Guys, I try my best not to swear during our live streams and keep it very professional, but some days, God. At least we have the emergency light. So we have the emergency light here. All right, let's take a look at Lemonade here. So Lemonade up 13%, very, very strong move for the company right now. And then earnings beat, revenue beat, so very good numbers coming in. Yeah, but it's gone absolutely parabolic, I think 55, 56% in the last few days is a very strong move. And if you take a look at the numbers here, again, I don't know why TradingView is not reporting some of these numbers. These headlines need to be updated, TradingView. This is from 7 days ago. But from what I can see, very strong beat on both revenue and earnings. Support level is going to stay put roughly around here. Roughly at about $16, $17, and then a resistance all the way up to here, $30. That would be the target I would pay attention to for Lemonade. So Novavax missed revenue by $800 million. So which company are you talking about? So, okay, Lemonade, yeah, I'll do a video on Lemonade, definitely, and see if I can get a video out on them. But going back to QQQs here. So can you look at HIMS? All right, let's see what that company is all about. Hims and hers. Okay, so decent revenue growth. We don't have a lot of data, but year to date, the stock is up 6%. Wow. I feel like it's done much better than the S&P 500 or the Nasdaq. Looks like we do have some analysis on them. This is the overall lower highs and lower lows. Just kind of continuation from the previous analysis that we had. So this is going to be the overall downtrending channel for Hims and hers. Very nice breakout, starting to make some higher highs here. And the resistance now, we would pay attention to is 729, 730 right here. That would be the next target to pay attention to. But looks like they are not quite profitable yet. Quarter over quarter, decent revenue growth, but again, not profitable yet. And are trading at 4x sales. So it's going to be on the watch list. Looks like it's a small cap company. I'll put it on the watch list, but not like a super priority right now. So it looks like we are getting a little bit of resistance here at 318. Not able to, break out. Yeah, it's just taking some time to kind of load up the charts and stuff here. So Crispy Nugget asking about Tattooed Chef. So TTCF, I actually did a video on them, so you can check that out. We went over a lot of different things. We talked about the revenue, the earnings, the free cash flows, everything when it comes to Tattooed Chef. But yeah, I mean, this is an interesting company. Gross margins of 1% is quite interesting because I mean, if you've got 1% gross margin, that is pretty much selling at cost, right? That you're just like you're buying and then you're just selling at cost or a little bit higher than cost. So that's the gross margins are a bit of an issue. We talked about it in our videos, so you can check that out. I also went over some very, very simple assumptions in terms of revenue, net margins, and what the net income might look like in EPS, and what the fair value might be for Tattooed Chef. So, again, very small cap, micro cap stock, so volatility is going to be there. It's going to be definitely very, very volatile. I mean, you can see the last few days. I mean, it was up like 12%, then up 1%, but intraday sold off, and then today on earnings down about 8%. So Herschel, what does Tattooed Chef do? It's just in the vegan food restaurant market. I mean, it provides like all these frozen food, which I have never tried, but I know that people have, and there's been like mixed reviews about it. Some people love it, some people absolutely can't stand it. So obviously you have to try it and make your own assumption. I think they have like frozen pizzas and frozen like bowls and stuff like that. So, but I have never tried it. So this right here, again, 318, we're kind of fighting that level, right? So yeah, it's kind of like Beyond Meat. Yeah, it is exactly like Beyond Meat. Yeah, so 318, like I said, we're fighting that resistance here quite a bit. And that's what happens once we get a breakdown or a breakout. Those levels, tend to become new resistance or support levels, and that's exactly what's happening with QQQ right now. Okay, it's kind of like we're struggling at 318 to see a potential breakout to the upside. SPY is now making a new low of day, and QQQ's or the Nasdaq very much close to making a new low of day. All right, Kevin says it's gross. Alfred says expensive and bad. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much of that is processed and stuff, because that's another thing, right? If you are trying to stay healthy, if you want to stay healthy, stay away from processed food. And I don't know how much of that is processed for Tattooed Chef or Beyond Meat or any other vegan. All right, so today I think we have seen a little bit of momentum for energy names. Energy stocks are higher. So if you go over to our energy watch list, very, very green. If you come over to our banks, banks are doing, I would say, okay. Actually, they're doing better. You got Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Barclays, Deutsche Bank, JP Morgan. They're pushing higher. So banks and energy are kind of leading the way. And then some of the fintech names. So you come over to our fintech watch list. They're all down except for what? Upstart's green. Wow. Upstart is now up close to 1%. Yeah, that's crazy. But everything else, selling off: SoFi, Firm, Square, PayPal, Ally, MasterCard, Visa. And then when we take a look at energy, obviously I mentioned earlier, all green. And then advertising companies, right? These are all some of the social media names that depend very heavily on advertising. Digital Turbine and Twitter pushing higher, whereas everything else, Roku, Snapchat, Meta, Amazon, Pinterest, Google, Trade Desk, I think Pubmatic should be part of this as well. And then we'll also add APPS is there, and then Trade Desk is there as well. Okay, so yeah, Pubmatic up 16% very nicely. And then cybersecurity, all red, again, kind of belongs to that tech sector. And then electric vehicles. EVs, they're all down. Workhorse reported earnings down about 11%, and all of them are down, except for Volkswagen, slightly higher, 46 basis points. All right, I kind of lost you guys for the chat because I had you on my phone. I'm gonna have to pull up the chat again. One second. I have no access to chat right now. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, so as I was saying, EVs obviously selling off as well. And then let's just go back to our QQQs. There we go, a little bit of a bigger breakdown for QQQs as well. So now starting to sell off pretty aggressively. So again, you know, old support level, old resistance level acting as a new resistance here. So we got a little bit of a breakdown right at the open. We push higher. So this happens with almost all technicals. So, you know, always like a rule of thumb, if you want to pay attention to technicals very closely, is that if this is a resistance or a support, or if this is a very critical area that you've been watching, if the stock kind of bounces back and forth from this level, so you see kind of bounce off, and then eventually breaks down, it will come back up to retest, right? And if it gets rejected, because this is an old support now acting as a new resistance, then that's a pretty big breakdown, like a change in direction, if you want to call it. And that's, you know, something that we are witnessing for the QQQs right now, as we are starting to see a little bit of a sell-off after the rejection at 318. So that's going to be it, everybody. I don't have access to the chat right now because my phone died. So I'm gonna just look at it over here. But once again, thank you so much for joining in. I really appreciate it. Look at that, excellent connection. So we've got very good connection, but 103 likes. We've got 433 people watching, only 103 likes. Come on, we can do better. Let's just get this up to at least 200. So just make sure that you tap a like. I really appreciate it, each and every one of you guys. So make sure that you drop a like, and of course subscribe if you're new to the channel. And Patreon, Discord link down in the description below to join our private Discord, and of course our money investing community. Get access to all the alerts and private videos and spreadsheets and a ton of information as well. So thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Hope you all have a great, fantastic rest of your day. And don't forget, tomorrow live stream is going to be a little bit earlier because we've got inflation bright and early at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. So that's going to be very important. So take care, everybody.